Stephen Kramer, our House Representative, Kelly Armstrong. So we're here to try, maybe we need some protection for it. We know the ARFA, American Indian Religious Freedom Act, has helped us for this all many years. So through the late Reuben Snake and his administration back in '94 and everyone that was involved in that demonstration project, they said that in the future days, things might change. The administration, whether it be at the national level, state, local level, things might change. So this ARFA, in a way, it might need to be beefed up in a way that the challenges, here we are, 2022, that we're going to need. So right now, there is really no protection for where it grows in the wild in Texas. So as we hear today, USDA agriculture is funded, having disturbance, plowing up our sacred grounds, our holy land, where we grow this medicine grows. We're plowing it up and planting grass. To us as Native American church relatives, it's sad because a lot of us depend on this holy medicine, this sacrament. They're using it for fracking, the sand, the soil. Maybe some way, somehow, the Biden administration approved $38.4 billion on appropriations, a subcommittee. So we as an organization, we sent a testimony to the House of Representatives. We wanted to express some way, somehow we can tap into that, to have a set aside for us as Native American church relatives from the north to the west to the east to the south, that the organization will not receive the funds. Maybe the Congressional House of Representatives can establish a board, and that this money will be distributed to the private landowners for those that want to participate in this program. So how wonderful can it be as us, as Native American people? We know all the challenges from many years through our sovereignty, through our treaties, all that energy. Here we are today as Native American church relatives, still going off the prayers, still trying our humble best. So we have a panel of some awesome spiritual leaders within their communities, tribal leaders, chairmen, legal representatives that are going to help to address, to fine tune our efforts here today. So I want to say thank you.
And our next panelist is Justin Jones for the Navajo Nation. Also our legal counsel and the legal counsel to the Navajo Nation Medicine Man Association. At this time, we turn it over to Justin Jones.
Justin Jones Good morning, good afternoon, members of congressional staff, Senate staff, and members of the White House staff, that we are rendering this congressional hearing. Thank you for the opportunity to listen to us today. Thank you for the opportunity to present something that is coming from our hearts, something that's coming from our minds and our souls and our spirits, to tell you about something that defines who we are as Indian nations, as Indian people. something that defines our daily life from the time that we wake up and the time we go to sleep. Something that we use to ensure that our sons and daughters and our grandsons and our granddaughters are raised well. Something to ensure that who we are is going to exist 100-200 years. Thank you for that opportunity to do that. We are still in this age today of clarifying issues and matters before the rest of the world. We're indigenous to this land. We've been here all these years, from generations to the generation, from time immemorial. Our stories, our songs, and our prayers, they say that. And those prayers and songs that we still use today, they still depict that today. And so, at this day and age, it is ironic that as Indian tribes, we still have to educate the rest of the world of who we are and what we're about. And even more important, we still have to fight. We still have to struggle, still have to ask permission for even just to pray. That's where we're at today, ladies and gentlemen. And so this is something that is very dear to us. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't have been like that, but yet it is like that today. No other religions in this world have to do that, especially here in the United States of America. Give you something to stimulate your thoughts. Just imagine if the Holy Bible was a plant. Just imagine if that Bible was a plant and only grew at a certain parts of this country. If that Bible was a plant, you're going to need it for your church services every Sunday. But let's say that that Bible grew on private lands with fences and other things, that you couldn't get access to it. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be hard to have church services on Sunday. That is the same dilemma that we're in today as members of the Native American Church. In my language, that's the term that we use. And so that's where we're coming from. That our prayers, our songs are embedded in this holy medicine, in this Azur. And so today we are at a point where this plant only grows in a certain part of this country, which is southern Texas. And the way that it grows, it's only sacred. It's only that sacredness of it is embedded, it's entwined when it's in its natural habitat, and then when it's harvested like that, because it's harvested through prayers, it's harvested through song, it's harvested with an offering. And when it's harvested, it's brought back to our homes, and that sacredness remains as well. And so where it's at today, there are lands that are being destroyed. The natural habitat is diminishing and diminishing. So imagine that if the Holy Bible was a plant, and that the habitat and the way that it's the production of it, growth of it is diminished, you would have concerns just like we do today. So we call upon the United States government. We call upon state governments. We call upon local governments. We call upon everyone to see the dilemma that we're in today. So we have some suggestions and we have some initiatives that we have begun in either to begin to address the natural habitat diminishment of our sacred medicine. For example, the federal government has federal agency land acquisitions. They have the Land and Water Conservation Fund. The federal government also has the Migratory Bird Conservation. The federal government also has Federal Land Transaction Facilitation Act. The federal government also has federal land swaps. These are all federal laws, federal initiatives that receive significant amount of funding to ensure that vegetation and even birds are not gone forever. So we call upon the federal government. We're going to begin with an initiative to request for $5 million from you, the federal government, so that we can begin the process of ensuring that the natural habitat is preserved, that the natural process of that prayer, it continues. That is what this briefing is about. That's our concern. And so I wanted to give you that example of if the Holy Bible was a plant, for you to begin to contemplate that and begin to think about that. In addition to that, we are also faced with the fact that this medicine is being decriminalized, or there's a movement to decriminalize this in various states. Approximately 25 state legislators have decriminalization initiatives before them to decriminalize for whatever reason. The medicine is very, very sacred to us because of the sacred content of it. We have a holistic way of looking at things. We have a holistic way of talking about things, praying about it, and singing about these things. So when you begin to sacretize, if that's even a word, then it begins just like another substance. And that's what we're trying to get some legislations to protect that as well. So we have to go back to the American Indian Religious Freedom Act in 1994. The Indian Religious Freedom Act provided the fact that the peyote, would be used by an Indian for bona fide traditional ceremonial purposes. It has to be used in a ceremonial purpose, for a ceremonial purpose, in a ceremonial matter. You can't just use that any other way. That's what makes it distinct. That's what makes it relative to us, American Indian. And it has to be used in American Indian ceremony as well, the way that the law defines it. So it's important that the federal government, through its trust corpus, protect this for us. We're relying upon the trust corpus to do this. And so that's what we bring this to the different congressional bodies here today. And thank you for this honor and privilege to say something.
We thank you, Justin, for those powerful words, and we move over to Cedric Black Eagle of the Absalaga Crow Nation from Montana, and he'll be sharing with us the new chapter that he's leading there, the new movement in Montana, also to join in with this advocacy agenda, and also a board member for IPCI. And we turn it over to you at this time, Cedric.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, kind relatives out there. And I wanted to, first of all, thank Native American Church of North America for inviting me to this Congressional and Administrative Peyote briefing. And again, my name is Cedric Black Eagle, former chairman of the Crow tribe. I belong to the Whistling Water clan. My mom's Whistling Water, and my late dad was Thick Lodge kid. I also I'm a director of the Native American Church of Absalaga Nation Lands. We are initiating our new charter there at Crow. I'm also a board member of the Indigenous Peyote Conservation Initiative, formerly known as IPCI. And one of our staff members, Adrian Primo, is here today, and he's going to be passing out some literature on those initiatives that they are taking also. And I wanted to talk to also the young people that are here, because what we're doing today, I believe, will benefit, for the most part, the future of of our sacred sacrament peyote. And I noticed a lot of the young people that are running around here, really glad to see that. I've seen a couple of my nephews that are here, and it's really about them. It's really about how we put this together as collectively as nations of organizations of Native American Church and those that are around the country. We have to all work together to make this work. And I believe that's so. It's hard enough. It's a struggle to try to take a piece of legislation and push it through Washington, D.C. on your own. And and if you're collectively together praying about it, moving it forward, it's much easier on everybody to do that. And as far as some of the struggles that we had at Crow, and when it was outlawed back in the 50s, 40s, the 50s, a couple of names come to mind: Frank Texagan and William Bill Russell. I had the opportunity to visit with them too when they were conducting service. I was a little boy, as most of us have grown up in the teepee. As we were growing up, our parents brought us in there, taught us the do's and don'ts of what this ceremony is about. And to be able to listen to the old people talk about and pray about how do we, as a Native people, how do we protect this plant? It's so, from Montana, it's 24-hour drive to get to Texas. And it's how do we protect that from so far away? And listening to him pray about that. And I think a lot of those prayers are gradually getting answered today from what I am hearing. And so with that, the Big Sheep case at Crow as an older case that was initiated there as well. And I also want to acknowledge the congressional delegation folks out there that are listening in. The Montana Senator John Tester, a champion of Indian country. He has been a trusted voice in the United States Senate for us in Indian country. Also sits on the Committee of Veteran Affairs and Indian Affairs as well. Montana Senator Steve Daines is another emerging leader in Indian Affairs and a member of U.S. Committee on Indian Affairs as well. And as well as Congressman Matt Rosendale, a crucial member of the House Natural Resource Committee as well. I want to thank the Montana congressional delegation for taking the time to be listening into this today. I also, sitting here with the Native American Church in North America supporting the $5 million requests in fiscal year budget 2023 as a standalone peyote habitat conservation initiative demonstration project. I think it's really important for us, again, collectively to be looking at doing that for the Holy Sacrament peyote. So for many years, there has been profound need for the peyote habitat, and existing federal programs in both USDA and Department of Interior has a lot of programs that my colleagues here had talked about earlier, and I don't want to go over that again, but the nexus of peyote is on private land. I know that most of you have been down there, and throughout the years, back in '74, I went down there with my grandfather and my dad, and we took out tobacco and did our pray to find the peyote, and we did. And to be able to harvest it on our own is something that is, I think, is dear to all of us that have had that opportunity to do so. And I think that's something that we need to go back to as well, because a lot of times most of us go down there, attend meeting, attend a conference, and we go run over to the peyote dealer and grab a bunch of bags of peyote and head home. So that's kind of the what we've grown up with. And I think it's, you know, it's a good time to go back to harvesting on our own like we should. And as far as that goes, you know, the Department of Interior, the meaningful venues, the tribal consultation, tribal leaders, the government basis, the United States government has a trust responsibility, has the repatriation of Native America. We were here first, and that land that peyote grows on is originally Native American usage of people that have used that in the past. And I want to thank, again, for all of you for listening in. Thank you.
We thank you, Cedric. We appreciate those good words. We started in North Dakota, we moved down to Arizona, we went over to Montana, and now we're at New Mexico. The Dayish family, the leadership in the Native American Church in New Mexico, and we move it on over to Terry Dayish, who will be expressing himself on behalf of his constituency base there. We appreciate you. Terry, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Ryan. Yat Shay Terry Dayish, that's a but Anin Schlero, his council, was a chain, touching it as a shadow, not quite an ed, as a null. Is Yahol, so hol yede, Adh and K, Shemaya Ya Hazel, Dayish, Aro, Shajan de Frankie Dayish, what Ayat and Gedini Dole. So thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. My name is Terry Dayish from Farmington, New Mexico. I'm a member of the Navajo Nation. I serve as the delegate at large for the state of New Mexico for Native American Church of North America. To start, I want to thank New Mexico Congresswoman Teresa Fernandez. Her leadership in chairing the House Natural Resources Subcommittee for Indigenous Peoples of the United States has been remarkable. Her effort to include cultural rights into the legislative agenda is appreciated. I want to thank New Mexico Senator Ben Lujan as well for his leadership on the United States Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. Finally, I want to thank New Mexico Senator Martin Heinrich. His commitment to cultural preservation and land conservation provides hope for Congress that Congress will partner with the Native American Church and enable a continuous supply of our holy medicine so that we may truly enjoy the promise of religious freedom. I am here today to speak with you about several issues that is making it impossible for the Native American church community to fully express their religious freedom. The first issue, the only place in the United States that peyote grows wild is in the sacred lands in southern Texas, known as the Peyote Gardens, which sits on privately owned land. Because it sits on private land, access to peyote harvesting and peyote preservation efforts are hindered. Access is contingent upon voluntary partnerships with private landowners. The second issue, when Congress amended the American Indian Religious Freedom Act, ERFA, in 1994 to legalize peyote use, it neglected to protect the peyote or its natural habitat. The peyote habitat could be wiped out if private landowners chose to do so. The third issue, land development and root plowing is destroying and depleting the number of peyote plants that could be valuable for future generations. Federal programs investing in root plowing of peyote is contributing to habitat destruction. The fourth and final issue I want to bring up is decriminalization of peyote. It's creating mainstream access outside of the sacred Native American church ceremony. This is wrong. Access to peyote outside Native American church ceremony threatens the sacredness of peyote. Indian tribes recognize the peyote to be a sacred and significant part of their religious, cultural, and ceremonial use. Without intervention of peyote habitat destruction, there is an imminent threat to the entire Native American church. Research conducted in 2015 by the Walker Research Group found that decline and risk to the peyote itself, habitat, and native access, the quality and numbers have drastically decreased. The International Union for Conservation for Nature has already classified peyote as vulnerable. Congress and administration have a sacred trust responsibility to protect American Indian religious and ceremonies. Congress led policy mandates through passage of ERFA. The ERFA remains the policy of the United States and guarantees protection for all parts of the American Indian religious freedom. To combat further peyote habitat destruction, Congress must authorize the interior appropriation request of $5 million that the Native American Church of North America has made for a peyote habitat preservation demonstration project. The project is intended to engage private landowners to peyote habitat conservation easements. In conclusion, I appreciate the opportunity to express these viewpoints. Peyote habitat destruction amounts to destruction of the Native American church religion. Without peyote as a sacrament, the peyote ceremony will not exist. And the explicit protection of American Indian religious freedom will become a distant memory. Peyote is central to the Native American church. The religion cannot exist without access to the peyote. Simply stated, if there is no peyote, there is no ceremony. Peyote habitat only then can be protected for future generations. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
We thank you, Mr. Dayesh, and it's appropriate if you guys want to give a round of applause, that's all right. And we'd like the second panel, Mr. Strong, Earl Arkinson, Daryl Red Cloud, if you guys could be making your way up here for the second panel. Please come make your way up here and be ready. And then we're moving on over into Idaho now. And good relatives, I'd like to announce as well that the Shoshone-Bannock Native American Church, Idaho there, is turning 100 years old this year. So give them a big round of applause, 100 years old, their chapter, Native American Church. Tribal leader, member of the Native American Church, Devin Boyer, has joined us all the way from Shoban country, Fort Hall, and we're going to turn it over to him at this time. And again, the second panel, Albert Johnson, Daryl, Ted, Earl, everybody come up and sit up here.
Well, good day, everyone. My name is Devin Boyer. My name given to me in our language, Moonvich. It means the messenger of death. It's on my birth certificate. I was told by my grandparents the reason why that name is there and what it means is because of all the things that we're gonna see in my lifetime if we don't change, if we don't protect, if we don't fix the things that are wrong, it will all go away. We only have two things in this life. One is good medicine, the other is bad. We need to hang on to the good. So my message today for not only all of you, but for those that are listening on the live stream, those that are in Congress, those that are senators and their administration, their staffers, I want to express to you that what we're talking about here today with all these very, very distinguished gentlemen and who they represent, Native American Church of America, the North Side, is the fact that we're in a dilemma. People are trying to take our medicine. They're trying to make it synthetically. They're not trying to protect it. We need to change those things. or we were looking at death. We cannot live without our medicine, our good medicine. We cannot practice. We cannot have our customs, our beliefs, our traditions, and our culture without it. So I'm asking all of those folks that are in our legislative bodies in Washington to help us, hear us, understand us. That's how important it is. It takes all of us to do that. I'd like to acknowledge Mike Simpson, Mike Crapo, James Rich, Darren Benjamin, the Morris family, Doyle Punkin, our ragtag team back home in Fort Hall. Also, Franklin Davini, because we all pray each and every day to make sure that the good medicine stays, to make sure that there is no death. We're all connected with everything on this world, this Mother Earth below us, our universe above us, and everything in between. Nothing is left out. So I'd like to express that much today. Also, I'd like to acknowledge all women. They bring in the water, that element that helps us and protects us each and every day. Those women carry it. They carry it in. It's within them as well. I'm a third generation leader from my tribe. My mother before me, her father before her. So I'd like to acknowledge my grandfather, Mr. Edward Queet Boyer, my mother, Dr. Lenata Warjack, and myself. And hopefully for all of you, everything can continue on to the future. I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. Dawn D. Davis. She's our researcher back home. She also takes care of things for us as a woman. She protects us with all her prayers as well. There's a lot of things to talk about that was already mentioned. And before I run out of time, I'd like to say that when we move forward, when we look at tomorrow, it's not only this day, but it's all days. We have people that are still yet to come. We have to preserve everything that we have, that good medicine. We need help doing so. We need it to last for all of those people too, because it's going away. That's the truth. We have to face up to it. We have to have everything protected. The lands around it, that environment also feeds it. That's why there's things that are going away, because they're not protecting it. So have that in your thoughts and your prayers. And I'd like to thank everybody that said you need to come say a few words for us. I'd like to acknowledge all of them. And I appreciate not only this panel, but the panel that's going to be up next, and everybody here and all of those that are out there. Thank you. Oh.
Go ahead and give this first panel a big round of applause, relatives. They're gonna go ahead and exit to their left. Follow Derek. You can grab your water too and your name tags. Here. Zoom participants, bear with us. We're lining up the next panel now. And good relatives, we have Earl Arkinson, Chippewa Cree Tribe, former president of the Native American Church in North America. He's our esteemed elder. We are happy that he's joined us here all the way from the Rocky Boys Indian Agency. This is a man of high deep regard for this way of life of worship, who's also been the political and spiritual force behind Native American Church in North America. And at this time, we turn it over to him. And go ahead and make sure your mic's on, grandfather.
Good morning. Yes, Earl Arkinson, a member of the Chippewa Cree tribe. My Cree name is Kananakil Pasigu. That means heat wave standing up. And I'm a ceremonial leader, a spiritual practitioner of my tribe. I'm a Sundance leader. We're going to have our Sundance here coming up end of the month. So you're welcome to come over there and participate and pray with us. So with that, my grandson said, I'm a former 3-term president of this fine organization, NACNA. Today, I want to say that I want to acknowledge our congressional leaders, John Tester, who is a champion of Indian country, a trusted voice in Indian country. He's incidentally our neighbor over there among the Chippewa Cree. He only lives 30 miles from Rocky Boy. Also, Steve Daines, he's also with the U.S. Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. Also, Congressman Matt Rosendale. These people are the ones that can truly help us with this issue that's on the table here on the preservation of the habitat of peyote, to protect our medicine. Over there in Texas, we don't want the farmers over there to plow anymore, destroying our holy medicine, which is really sacred to us. We don't want them to plow any more fields, destroying the habitat of peyote, because peyote is really sacred. We want it to grow some more, and it needs rain, huh? We just recently here, we had a lot of rain, like Yellowstone National Park, it's closed. We had a lot of rain, and we need more rain down there where our holy medicine grows. So we want our congressional people to pass a law to preserve our medicine, our holy medicine, so it'll continue to grow for our future generations, like in the years in the past. Our ancestors, this peyote has grown for many thousands and thousands of years, and we want it to be that way for our future generations to come. We want, this peyote, we depend on it. It has performed miracles. Our old people, they used to take in our sick people in there in the morning time. They used to come out feeling okay. It has known to cure cancer and different illnesses. So we want our congressional people to pass some kind of a law to protect our holy sacrament, peyote. So with that, I want to say that we really have a good way of life that's been here a long time. And back in 1994, when President Clinton signed that peyote bill, Public Law 103-344, when Senator Inouye, that time when he helped us, and the old folks, they done a lot of work. They had helped us. They had a lot of hearings. So we want their help again to for this peyote habitat. So please, Congress, help us. So with that, I'd like to say about that much this morning. I know there's a lot of good words shared this morning. So with that, I'll say about that much. So thank you, NACNA, for hosting Fort Berthold, for hosting this year's convention. I wish my nephew's administration, I wish you well. So with that, I'm going to say about that much, and say God bless all of you. I know it's the expense of gas for coming over here to be with this 73rd annual NACNA convention. I wish you a good summer, all of you. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over this microphone to my brother, Ted Strong. Aho.
Oh, we thank you, Earl Larkinson. Good relatives, let's give the former president of the Native American Church in North America a big round of applause for coming out of retirement and joining us here with these good spiritual words. We also had a private message just come across from Tom O'Halloran's office, the congressional representative in Arizona. He says, Yate to everybody in Arizona on behalf of the congressman. Also, staff are on Zoom here, and Mr. Cal Curley wanted everybody to know he's one of the staff. He's also a member of the Native American Church in North America, and he's pledged to educating the congressman and his colleagues about what we're doing here today. So let's give Cal Curley a big round of applause as well. He's on board listening. Just wanted to spread that message to you. We turn it at this time over to our Yakima elder from the great state of Washington, one of the individuals that's responsible for bringing this way of life also to the Northwest, and the people that worship peyote, that practice Native American church in the Northwest. He's been a statesman, an ambassador, a great individual that's joined us today here. We'd like Ted Strong to go ahead and share his message at this time.
My name is Ted Strong. I'm a member of the Sovereign Yakima Nation and currently the president of the State of Washington Native American Church. I appreciate the opportunity presented by the Native American Church North America to comment, and first of all, thank the Mandan Hidatsa Arikara Nation for hosting us here upon their ancestral lands, and give thanks for our delegates in Washington, the Honorable Maria Cantwell and the Honorable Patty Murray, senators from our state, and to our good House Representative Dan Newhouse. They work hard for our rights, and they recognize the value of having good, respectful relationships. And we hope that their heart and minds are open today to hear what we are saying. In the United States of America since 1776, there have been documented 571 species that have disappeared from the face of this earth, all because of human encroachment. There have also been documented 49 tribes that have gone extinct because of removal of their habitat, dispossession of their properties, genocide practiced upon their lives and livelihoods. The removal of these kinds of things have always been known injurious. And for our medicine, we call it tautnuknun miawach. Science calls it peyote. They are losing their home, their habitat. And it would be like the United States of America losing its Constitution. Both provide meaningful practices of freedom, democracy, love, faith, hope, and charity. We could not be expected to live without our medicine. And in this realm that we live in, the world, which is filled with violence, greed, apathy, jealousy, hurtfulness, it is this medicine that brings us the healing, the comfort from all the ills that we face every day. We are here today respecting our ancestors and remembering our unborn generations, children who are coming behind us. They expect the United States of America to live up to the sacred covenants we have with the divine creator. Those include honoring all creatures, all life, all of creation. And in this way, we find that the medicine should endure forever. And it's solemnized in the Constitution of the United States under the free clause of the First Amendment that bars the United States government from injuring, hurting, preventing us from practice of our religion. That's penalization. It's barred by the greatest supreme laws of this land. Following that, the Congress passed the Endangered Species Act. Simplified, what it does, it prevents humans from destroying life on this earth. The United States of America has not been successful in preventing these species from being destroyed. That's why we have fear about our children's future, because each of us know the good and the power and the beauty and the healing that came from this medicine. We should pass on to our next generations nothing less. And so with this ability here today to have this habitat conservation initiative not only passed but funded, the Native American Church of North America requests that our government provide not only funding but meaningful consultation. That is something that was promised in government-to-government relationships. And it is good to learn from our history. In the Pacific Northwest, our salmon were listed as endangered starting in 1969. It culminated in the United States Supreme Court, United States versus Oregon, United States versus Washington. And over many decades, billions and billions of dollars have been spent by the government trying to restore salmon. After all these decades, salmon are still in decline. We worship salmon from our Creator. It is like a medicine. Our esteemed leader, Watson told us in 1975, these animals, these plants, these birds, these fish come to us born in the wild, nurtured by the air, the land, the light, and the water. That is what makes them holy. It's their spirit. He said, we do not want to have those kinds of things that are artificial, farmed, cultivated. They don't have the same kind of powers in them. So today I'm looking forward to having this successful convention in which our hopes and prayers are answered not only by the United States government, but the administration, the Congresses, the three bodies of government that we have. God bless you, take care of you, have a safe trip home, bless your tribes, the Native American Church of North America. Thank you.
We thank you, Mr. Strong, and we welcome you to North Dakota. And thank you for participating. And we're going to move on down to South Dakota. A member of the Oglala Lakota Nation, the Ochete Shakawin, a voice from South Dakota, an emerging leader within the Native American Church, has joined us, a descendant of our great chief Red Cloud. And we'd like to turn the mic and platform over at this time to Daryl Red Cloud.
Lakota Nakota Oyate Kihena Tata Lechiawahi. Daku Epaki Eche Dakwashtek the Lo. Ishake Lakota Chaje Mithoki, Wambli Shio Ahi Emacha below. I come over here to greet you all in a good way, and mainly the people that are in Washington, D.C. I would like to extend good feelings to each and every one. My name is Eagle brings a message in our Lakota language. I am a blood descendant of Chief Red Cloud of the Oglala Lakota people. I come to say that the ancient Native American Church of Pine Ridge, South Dakota supports the Peyote Habitat Conservation Initiative demonstration project. Our relatives has been practicing this way for close to 100 years now. Many of our people, our elders, many of our people have depended on Creator and this medicine for a good way of life. And as it has brought us this far in a good way through health, through proper thinking, through a proper way of living, and so forth. And I want to acknowledge the Senator John Thune for his leadership in Indian affairs. Senator Mike Rounds for his commitment to treaty tribes and Indian affairs. Congressman Dusty Johnson in an emerging voice of leadership on tribal issues with the House of Representatives. The American Indian Religious Freedom Act provides a policy statement in which it is the policy of the federal government to protect American Indian religion. That one there is very important to our people, all indigenous people that utilize this peyote. We need to do what we can and how we need, and we ask for your help to preserve this holy medicine, Pejuta Wakan. We ask you to do what you can so that our way of worship, our way of prayer, our medicine will be here for the future generations for a long time to come, so that we could continue to utilize this medicine in a good way. And like the previous speakers come before me, we refer to the United States Constitution and the freedom of religion. There we need to honor that, not only for non-indigenous people, but for the indigenous people of this land, this country. We are the first people here. We've been here. So we ask you in a humble way to think about us, to say something for us, to help us to preserve this peyote in its natural habitat in all the lands throughout southern parts of Texas, not just a small portion, but all the lands where this peyote grows. This peyote is good. There is nothing wrong with it. My father testified at the Senate hearings back in 1991, testified that this medicine is good. There is nothing wrong with it. It has all types of healing properties. So we ask you to help us along so that things can be good for the indigenous future generations of all of our tribes throughout North America. We ask you in a good way to help us along. As I sit here today, in front of you, I'm the great-great-grandson of Chief Red Cloud. Chief Red Cloud, who was a military leader amongst our people, amongst our Lakota, Nakota, Dakota nation. There, my grandfather, with all of our people, the Lakota, Nakota, Dakota nation, was the only indigenous people to ever defeat the United States in military combat. A little bit of true history for you. Not in no disrespect for any of the military people and our military people throughout this country, all the way up to present day. But our people have defended this country, all different tribes. We defended this country. We defended our right to utilize this medicine and practice this way of life. So we ask you again to look down upon us and help us along so that things can be good for our future generations. Preserve this medicine. and the land that it grows on, its natural habitat. Very important to our indigenous people. I would like to say thank you again. Aho, mitakuye oyasi.
Aho, we thank you, Daryl Red Cloud. Thank you for those words, and we're gonna move down. For the first time in many, many years, the ABNDN is represented here at the Native American Church in North America. We welcome Albert Johnson and his powerful demonstration on the decriminalization movement and trying to protect this medicine as well. And he's come here today to share some good words with us and to join this panel as well. So give him a big round of applause, relatives, for joining in. And we're happy and honored you're here with us. So we turn it over to you at this time.
Oh, yate, she yai Albert Anthony Johnson in she, but ahnin shle, ashin he bashin, kishet she ni dashet she, do in the kishet she ni dashanale, ahot out e yai the nan shle. I come to you this morning. I feel so humble today, and now serving as the Vice President of Azeh Ben Haga of the Nation, and also serving as a task force chairperson for opposing the decriminalization effort on the Navajo Nation. And I would like to say that the Azeh Ben Haga ABDN is operating within the Navajo Nation, recognized by our great Navajo Nation, and also working directly with our nation's government at this point in time. And I would like to thank and also recognize and appeal to our congressional leaders from state of Arizona. I know that Honorable Tom Hollerman was very supportive in our effort. And then also to acknowledge our state senator, Teresa Hatashi, and then also our honorable representative, Nygren. And then also at the same time, I would like to thank the congressional leaders from the state of Arizona for taking time to listen to us, to recognize us. And as I see that this peyote, according to my grandfather, peyote is good. It lives, it's a representation of the spiritual light, the spiritual air, the spiritual water, the spiritual earth. It's the substance of that. There's a spirit, there's something powerful in there. So in that respect, according to our elders and me, myself being an elder too, I realize and I know that this peyote, the spirit of that peyote is embedded in our spirit, in our soul, and in our mind, and in our hearts. Because through this peyote, we have seen my dad as an example. He was told that he was going to live only another 30 days and then he was going to die of cancer. But this peyote healed him in one night and lived for another 30 years. So we have a holy and a spiritual connection with this peyote. And today we hold this so dearly in our heart, and it is a way of life for us. This is all we have in our daily life at the present time. We follow this peyote. And at this point in time, we see that things have changed, situations have changed over decades. Even on our great Navajo Nation, this peyote was once upon a time illegal to have it. And there was penalty against that. But however, it was legalized, it was decriminalized and legalized in 1966. From that point on, it became legal on our Navajo Nation. At that point in time, then as time progressed, then the American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978 and then the amended act of 1994 also came in existence. So with that in place, it really settled our mind and began to use our peyote in a good way. But now the things and the situation have changed to a point where there are movements to decriminalize peyote. And we stand firmly from the Zebenaga of the nation to oppose that movement that is happening, either at the county level, at the city level, at the state level, and even at the federal level. So in that effort, we, the Navajo Nation, and also the Zebenaga, working directly with our Navajo Nation Council to seek ways as to how we can begin to develop our stance that will be firm and that will be based on our sovereign powers of the Navajo Nation, and to establish a good connection and to work directly with the federal government and the state government based on a government-to-government relationship. So we totally oppose the decriminalization of effort that is happening at this point in time. So on those particular matters, the Zebenaga and also the various organizations that are existing out there and taking care of this peyote, likewise for Native American Church of North America, we stand shoulder to shoulder with them to combine our effort to collaborate with them. So we appeal to you, congressional leaders, to listen to us, to help us, and also to protect and preserve, foster, and perpetuate this peyote in every way. So this peyote will be used forever and ever. It is this great nation and the nation. We say that we will not rest until this peyote is fully protected. And so with this, I stand and I can appeal to you at this time to document this and to listen to us. And we will leave this in your hands. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to make this testimony at this time. Aho.
Aho, thank you. Give the whole panel a round of applause, relatives. And if someone can help us here, Pancho, come help. We're gonna go ahead and exit off of this stage here. I'm gonna provide some closing comments. All of the panelists, if you could gather down here on the south side for some pictures, this historic moment, Native American Church in North America. If you all could get your prayer robes on and gather there. I'm gonna provide closing comments to the individuals that are on the Zoom link, and then we'll wrap up this congressional briefing at that time. We also invite you, staffers, to ask questions. We're providing a chat room. We're also providing a email where you could ask those questions. We pledge on behalf of Native American Church in North America, we will answer every question that comes into us in writing, and we'll do that. So at this time, I'm going to conclude. I wanted to show this document here, and I want to acknowledge my dear friend, one of the cherished persons in my life, Suzanne Harjo. But back in the 70s, when tribes were fighting for all religious freedom, for all of our ceremonies, all of our medicines, all of our way of life, they come about this new statute, this federal law called the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. And Section 2 of the Act mandated from Congress that the administration review, assess, and evaluate all of their policies of the federal departments and the federal agencies on how it impacts and affects American Indian religious freedom. And they issued a report to Congress in 1979, and this is that report. Every staffer on Capitol Hill that has something to do with Indian affairs, we want to get this report to you. We want to email you the electric copy. But what I want to make the point today is this report is 43 years old. It's 43 years old. What happened back 44 years ago when the act was passed? We have new challenges today. We have global warming, climate change. We have urban sprawl, development, roads, wind pads, oil pads, game farms, soil conservation programs that are tilling peyote land. We need Congress, we need the Biden administration to revise this report, to freshly look at American Indian religious freedom today, to have tribal consultation on American Indian religious freedom today. And we need that done now. And I end with those comments. We thank you for your time, for your attention on this crucial issue. And the Native American Church in North America will be organizing a Hill Day very shortly and going to Washington, D.C. to spread this message as well. So I say that much, aho, to each and every one of you.
I want to thank our chairman of our legislative committee for reconvene here. For I know this was part of the agenda that we set yesterday at the agenda meeting. So lunch here is on its way. It's just in the next room, needs to be delivered here. Is the agenda out yet?
The agenda was handed out to the delegates. So we had a meeting last night to work out this agenda. Any amendments, additions, anything wanted to be taken out. And so I thought that was done.